know a second Trump administration will attack the LGBTQ community. They were very clear on that in their campaign messaging. We don't know exactly what that looks like. However, we do suspect attack on the trans community as well as an attack on equality. There is a way to take steps to preserve your relationship, preserve your family, and preserve your dignity. If you are at all concerned about how to do that, please give our office a call, ALH Law Group, 614-440-1395. Thank you, and please enjoy C-Boss Mob.
Welcome to C-Bus Mob, where we talk with minority business owners. This is your host, Allison Harrison, and I have Daphne Fandrich here. She is the owner of Zen Paddle, as well as Heritage Restoration of Ohio. Daphne, please introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Daphne. Well, you did a very good job. I am the owner of a renovation company and then also switched gears this summer and added more things to my plate by starting a paddleboard excursion and rental company with the idea that I was a stressed out, busy, working parent, friend, wife, and needed an outlet for some of my stress and really have fallen in love with paddleboarding. So wanted to kind of give that back to anyone that was in the same boat and launched this year. And we had a really great time. So
yeah, I was lucky enough to go out twice. And if my wife had anything to do with it, we would have gone out more.
Every time. Yeah.
Yeah, she would.
She's my top client. No.
Wait till next summer. Just wait.
Wait.
So what made you kind of talked about what made you start Zen Paddle, but what made you start the restoration company?
So we actually started, we have my husband and I have two companies, Heritage Investments of Ohio, which is a group of rental properties. And that's the one that I run both of them, but I kind of solely own that one. And then Heritage Restoration, which was a company where we do flips and started doing renovations for people a couple years ago. We did those, we were both in, corporate America and just really at the point of feeling like we needed to have more freedom in our lives. I struggled a lot with working so hard because I got to a place in my career where I was at the top and I was working so hard for somebody else's dream. And it started really becoming apparent to me that if you're someone like us that works in a job, you want to do it the best you can. I mean, you put everything into it. And I was working nights and weekends and all for somebody else. So I struggled with that a lot. And I thought I was 41, 2-ish when it happened, where I started saying, you know what, this isn't what I want anymore. And luckily, my husband is very handy and he was also done with corporate America. So he had left his job earlier and we decided we've had these rental properties. Let's see if we can flip a house, knowing nothing about how to flip a house. And so we did. And we always laugh because everyone's like, oh my gosh, flipping sounds so fun. And we're like, we made $10 on our first flip. It was a little more than that, but it was really close. And we thought, what did we do? But I think through that process really became excited about the prospect of doing things on our own terms. So we started the gears rolling for me to be able to quit my job. I was like the breadwinner and had the insurance and all that stuff, the 401k, the stuff that stable people like that I was about to give up. But so we kept me on for a little while we kind of solidified this plan, which was a crazy plan when I think about it, because over the past 5 years, there's been a lot of craziness in the real estate market, but we did it. And he started first and then I left. I remember this to the T. I worked for a couple of men that were like the traditional lead by fear and just demean people to get them to work harder. And that's just not at all aligned with my values. And I remember one of them was on the phone with me and in October of 2018 and said, you need to start treating this more like it's your own business. And I got off the phone and I told my husband, this is happening within 6 months. And lo and behold, February of 2019, I said, see you later. And I was at the top of my game and no one could believe it. And of course, I was a woman in a leadership position and one of the only women in a leadership position in the country. So they were more upset that was leaving the status quo.
Yeah, you can't have your stats go.
Yeah, you're our woman. What are we going to do? So I love the fact that I left at the top. and just kind of I didn't say all the things I wish that I could have said. I just left everything at peace and moved forward. And now I just laugh, like, you told me to start my own business, or like treat something
Yeah.
like my own business. So I think I'm going to.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a lot to unpack there. I'm going to start with like the like basic question of like, run this company with your husband, like how that's
Good
a
Lord.
different family dynamic. So I'm just
It's
curious
crazy.
if you have.
Yeah. So we have decided early on, I am the CEO. I'm the person that makes sure all of the things run. But it's funny, when you start a business, any entrepreneur gets to a point where they're like, I'm going to start a business. You never think about the business side of the business. You think, oh, I'm going to go flip houses and we're going to have rentals and we're going to do X, Y, Z. You don't think about business insurance and all of the minutia, setting up the website and all the tech stuff and then the marketing. That's not what we were thinking about. So that stuff kind of came to me naturally, because I am not the person that can do electric, plumbing, and HVAC. So early on, we decided we have to stay in our own lanes. I will always do the finances, the design work. I will always do, the getting the minutia stuff, the insurance and all the fun stuff. And then he does what he does best, which is problem solve, figure out, build things. I say, this is what I want it to look like. And he goes, okay, and then does it. So there has been a struggle. I mean, we have to have, meetings sometimes where we just say, okay, let's lay it out on the line. And we, have difficult conversations because things build up. I mean, it's a coworker, but it's also someone that you have to have dinner with. So you kind of have to like run. It's a slippery slope sometimes. And I think we both work differently. We have different work styles. So that's tough.
Did you have these discussions before you started working together?
We're not that smart. No, we did not. We thought we did things kind of backwards. We didn't have the discussion about how that would change our relationship and how it would look. Looking back, I wish we could have or did. But the funny thing is that I'm not even sure we knew the obstacles that we'd face. So we could have probably had a really good discussion about how we want to handle things. But I'm not sure we had the foresight to know. It's like once you get into it, you start realizing what are the challenges. And I don't know that we could have done that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I talk with business owners all the time, and I'm like, make sure that you're on the same page. It's kind of counseling before you get married.
Yeah.
It's not going to tell you how to handle everything in your marriage, but it'll give you like a framework of how to have the conversation. And so it sounds like you all had the framework to have the conversation. You just didn't know what you're getting into, which is yeah.
Now we have it often.
I mean, that's amazing. How long have you had the company? Like you've been able to work together?
We have worked together solely, left my job in 2019. So it's been 5 years, gosh, almost 6, which is crazy.
Yeah, congratulations.
It's crazy to think, right? Because, you start this whole thing and we were on this trajectory. I had direct reports. I had lots of customers I had to take care of. I had just kind of wanted a job where I just relied on myself. And so we started doing all of these flips, and we have rental properties, which I love. That is my heart, is the rental properties. And then when we were doing these flips, it was great. And the market was great. We were making all this money. And all of a sudden it was like, the market's not so great. Very hard to buy in Columbus. There's a lot of investors, and, the interest rates went up, and there's things that happened that kind of pushed us into doing renovations for other people. It actually started with a friend of ours said, hey, we want to do a kitchen. Will you just do it for us? And I was like, yeah, we can do that. I mean, because we did all this stuff, right? We completely from the gutted and rebuilt houses. So we knew how to do it all. We didn't know how to do the pricing and all that for customers yet, but I said, sure. So we did it. And then we had somebody else ask and somebody else, and we thought, oh, this could be a thing. So that's when I dove in and said, Google, how do you get business insurance? Google, how do you price? And I just kind of learned.
Yeah.
So that kind of evolved from there, and we started doing that more regularly.
Yeah, I think that's how a lot of business owners kind of learn is, I don't want to say like trial by fire, but kind of you're in the throes of it and you figure it out as you go. What is one thing you wish you would have known before you left your other job to do this full time?
That is a great question. I think one of the things that I had when I was considering this was a little bit of decision paralysis based on I kind of had that fear of, what do I do about health insurance if we're both self-employed? And I ended up finding a really great therapist who helped me work through all those things and helped me. I knew what I wanted to do, and it was just kind of stuck. And I think that looking back, I have this saying now, and I think it's truer than ever, is you can't steer a parked car. So you have to
Ooh.
just start moving forward in order to start changing direction. So you don't have to maybe know every detail before you start. You just have to start, right? Because sometimes I think we get caught up in the planning. And I know now that nothing goes as planned, right? I mean, we've already changed our business model. So you can plan all you want and have every answer to every question, but truly you cannot figure out how to navigate until you start moving forward. So that was one of my big ahas at the beginning.
I like that analogy better because I often say done is better than perfect because of that analysis paralysis. But I liked you can't steer a parked car because the whole idea is once you make a decision, you can pare back, right? Or you can tweak it or revise it. And yeah.
And I think there's so much to be said. Like, also in that same vein, while you're doing all this research, there's a lot of looking at, oh, these are other people that do what I want to do, and comparing yourself. And while I think it is vitally important to analyze your competition or people that are doing something, then you really admire them, it's really hard because those people are doing it, right? They've been doing it. So of course they're going to do it. There's probably people starting out that look at me and go, oh, how do I get to her level? Because comparison is really tough at the beginning. And also I think sometimes that really limits your creativity. I think a lot of the things that we bring to the table doing renovations for other people is my husband can do anything, build anything, figure anything out. But I do all the design, and a lot of times contractors will come in and say, oh, what tile do you want? What paint color do you want? Well, I come with the package deal, right? So I help you design, he builds it, and you get kind of both of those. And that wasn't something we were seeing in the market. We had a lot of people come to us saying, we don't know, we want someone we can trust, and we want to know what tile we should get and what flooring we should get. And so it really kind of came up as this whole package. So if we had compared ourselves to other companies and said we were going to do it exactly like them, we might not have gotten to the niche that we have, which is that really strong team environment we have where we have both sides of the business in the business. So I think that sometimes that comparison kind of kills the creativity.
Yeah, I had a conversation with someone earlier about outliers, right? That's how we evolve and change different industries is you're the outlier. You do something differently.
Yes.
Yeah. And in the construction space, for sure, you get architectural drawings, you get your general contractor, and then either you have to spend hours at Home Depot staring at light fixtures or you hire a designer, typically, right? Yeah. And you get to take that out, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, okay. You had said something about when you left and started working with your husband full time, it was because it didn't align with your values. Can you kind of tell me a little bit more about your values and like how that's driven the work that you're doing?
Yeah. So when I was really diving into this, and is this really something I'm going to do? I needed to figure out like what my why was, because if you don't have your why, there's nothing. I know that my why is freedom, and not just financial freedom, because that's great and that's fun. And not that when you have a business, you have that, because if you're spending money on things you didn't even know existed that you needed to spend money on, but it's more the freedom of making my own schedule. And I remember like ever running an errand while I was in corporate America, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, my boss is going to call and know I'm at the grocery store getting dinner for my family or something crazy. And now, I mean, I had PTSD. It took me a while to like be able to like go out into the world on my own schedule and not feel like I was doing something wrong. And I wanted that freedom of flexibility. I wanted to, sometimes my husband and I will sit on a Sunday night, and after the kids are watching a movie and we're like, oh, let's go over that call, or let's go over that proposal. Or sometimes at night I'll be like, hey, I'm by a tile store, I'm going to go check out tile for so and so. And so really just as much, if not more, as an entrepreneur, as you know, it's not about the amount of work that I was trying to be free from. It was being able to do it on my own terms, and I'm a morning person. I like to get up early and do a whole bunch of stuff, but at 2:30, I need my coffee and I need to take a break. Right. So, and then I pipe back up maybe in the evenings. So I think having the freedom of flexibility with my schedule, especially with young kids, really was what I wanted. And we both, and I talk about more, I've joined this wonderful group of women, that in the world of business that have helped me with figuring out values and all that. I mean, God love my husband, but we don't sit and talk about that stuff, right?
Yeah.
We have the same values, but he doesn't dive in. But I've really like come up with these values that he's also on board with, which is great. But freedom definitely is one of them. We want to do a good job. We cannot leave a customer with any thought that they are not satisfied with the job. And we will work night and day to make anything exactly the way they want it. And I think that's both something that we are so passionate about. There's so many people out there that are jacking up prices on goods and materials, which are higher than usual, but they're kind of using the fact that people don't know what lumber costs or what tile products cost in order to jack up prices. And we can't in good conscience do that. We are both very like-minded in the way that it matters to us that we're doing the right thing for the customer, even with rental properties. I mean, we have rental properties in German Village. We could charge a ton of money, but I want to always make sure I am charging what makes sense for us as a business to stay profitable, but also what makes sense for people buying. I never want to price gouge. So that's good and bad, I guess, that we feel that way because
No, but
good for the customer, not always great for us, but we can sleep at night, right? Like we can sleep at night knowing that we are going to do the best we can.
Making money isn't always like the sole focus. It's certainly a focus. You have to be able to eat and keep a roof over your head.
That would be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But I get it. There are other reasons that you do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, what are the learnings that you took from your restoration company into Zen Paddle, right? You knew what a website looked like, what social media was. Is there anything else?
So much easier to do the second time around. There was a couple things. It's funny. As most women, have a hard time asking for help.
Yeah.
And that was one of my big learnings was I had to kind of open my eyes and ears and ask for people's advice and ask for people's help. And I think with Zen Paddle, I really did that. And the funny thing is that I learned through this whole thing that people really enjoy being asked for help, to ask to help. It's almost more of a gift you give them. And the best example I have of it, which the whole season of Zen Paddle was amazing and therapeutic and more than I can imagine it could be. But the last paddle was where I learned a ton about myself and how I handled things and just about people in general. And it was October 13th and it was a beautiful, beautiful sunny day, but really windy. And we had a whole there was a comedy of errors and things that happened. And I had random groups of people coming. Luckily, a few of them I knew. A couple of them were good friends. And then one of them was a frequent paddler, almost beats Heidi. And there were some issues. And I pulled a couple people aside and said, will you help with X? Will you take this group out? Will you take this group out? I'm going to ride on your board because we were down a board. So we went out and I ended up at the end saying thank you to these 3 women that really saved me that day from falling apart. And they all thanked me for asking for different reasons. One, it made her feel really confident that I asked her to help. And the other one really was dealing with her teenagers at home and didn't feel like she could talk to teenagers. And then I had her in charge of these teenagers in this group and she broke through and did a great job. And then the other one was the one I jumped on her board because we were down a board and she was like, I just needed to laugh this week. And we were dying laughing the whole time. So it was almost like this. I knew a lesson was being brought to me and thanks for letting it be the last battle of the season. But it really it just solidified the fact that when we ask people for help, the gift is really for them, I believe. So that's one of my things I've learned is ask for help. The other is, I don't know if you've ever read The Gap or the Gap and the Gain. It's a great book.
No, you told me about this and it's on my list.
I did tell you about this. Okay, so better get to the top. So basically the premise is how we as people tend to look at the gap and where we need to go instead of the gain that we've already done and look at how far we've come. And when you think about it, I like to say not only think about the gain and where you've come, but feel the gain. So I like to put myself back in the place at the beginning of Zen Paddle or the beginning of Heritage Restoration when we started flipping houses and we looked around and we were sitting in a house that we bought that had no walls, no HVAC, no plumbing, no electric. And I thought, we don't know how to do this. What is going on? And now it's like, oh yeah, now it's easier.
Right, in nature.
So It's second nature. So, but I remember that anxiety and that feeling, like not just knowing how far you've come in terms of numbers and things on paper, but really feeling that feeling of how you were at the beginning versus how you know, now are. And so when I started Zen Paddle, knowing that I really wanted to feel the game, I just absorbed it, right? And I just thought things are going to change. This is not going to go exactly as I planned. And I want to feel every bit of it. I want to feel how I feel at the beginning and now feel how I feel at the end. I remember at the beginning saying in 6 months from now, I want to sit down and say, God, I'm so proud of myself. And like, I did, I sat down and said, holy moly, you did it. It wasn't exactly the way I'd planned. Things went really well and I had a couple learnings, but oh my gosh, it was exactly what I wanted. So like feeling that gain is really important.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that otherwise you'll go insane if you don't sit back and reflect, because like you're always, I don't know, I'm always on to like, how can I be better? How can I be better? There's a way to be better. But if you don't take a second to be like, oh no, like, look, I did a pretty good job. Yeah. So a little question for you on, you had this group of women that you asked for help, and you've mentioned a couple other times you have a circle of women that help you. Like, how have you really leaned into, hey, I'm a woman business owner versus I'm just a business owner, to help you thrive?
Yes. And I think that's really important. I just started seeking people that felt like were going through the same thing I was going through. I first found a group called Learn, Connect, Support, which is a group of women entrepreneurs and business owners, and just business women in general that are looking to kind of level up their business. It was such a wonderful group for me to have as my first group. It's kind of like a therapist, right? You have to try a couple before you find the right one. And this one ended up it was a perfect match for me. It was women that were supporting me in what I needed for my business, what I needed for my personal life. You could sit there and go, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed, and no one judged you. It wasn't I want you to buy this from me or sell this to me kind of thing. It was truly women supporting women. And through that, I've evolved into meeting so many people. And I just say yes now. Like if I meet someone through this group and they say, hey, let's meet for coffee, I want to put myself out there and meet like-minded people, because it reminds you that you are on the right track with somebody that's doing something not similar to my business, but similar in life, where even if it's not starting a company, even if it's just wanting to learn and read self-development books and become a better human, if it's people I've really gotten into, like the volunteering sphere, I've really loved philanthropy, and I've been struggling with where I fit in that now. And I found a group now that I really love, that I want to work with. So it's just kind of putting yourself out there and saying, and sometimes it's like a cold night and you're like, I don't want to go to a networking thing, but you go and you I always end up meeting someone good, having a great conversation, something like that. So I just love the women helping women. When I was working in corporate and I was surrounded by men, it was in a very male driven industry. I think sometimes I was trying to become more like a man to fit into, the role, right? I was trying to be tough. I was trying not to show emotion. I was trying not to be caring and all the things that I am at my core. When I started this business and was able to surround myself with women, I was like, oh, there's another way. And actually, I believe it's a better way, right? I think we need compassion and the understanding that comes with women, and like we listen so well to other people and we understand their needs. And I think it's, while I love my husband and everything he brings to the table, when we go on meetings, I'm the one kind of gathering the minutia information that I'm hearing. I'm hearing the undertone of what they're saying and what they need. So I think it's really important to surround yourself with people that are, really want you to do well in life. And I have made some amazing connections.
And when you talk about networking, like I'm just curious, because I think everyone has a different kind of perception of what networking is.
Probably the perception I had.
Right.
Everyone here is going to try to, yeah.
It's okay. Like, I want to debunk that. Like, I don't know why but I remember when I was 20 something, I just thought it was like a room where everyone was trying to tell you they're amazing, but that's not necessarily what it is. So
have to be that. And I'll tell you, I joined some chamber of commerces. I've had other groups. I'm going to join the NABO, the National Organization of Women and Business Owners, in January. That's my goal. And so, I mean, I think you just have to find the right places. There probably are places where you go and you network and it's like, here's my business card and this is what I do and buy from me. And that's what my perception was. I was so that person. or like fake people that just, but now I go and I laugh because it's, to me, that is not the experience that I've had. There's always going to be those people. There's someone at any group, right? But the majority of times I've found that these groups are really full of people that are seeking the same thing I'm seeking, which is someone that kind of understands what I'm going through, or just has a similar path and wants to discuss it. And they don't have to be doing it the exact same way as me, but it's so nice to hear and refreshing to hear how people are doing cool things in the world. So yes,
Do you
it's not as bad
find
as I thought.
no, yeah. Do you find, because this is what I find now when I'm networking, is I will learn about the person and then be like,
Yes.
oh, I'm sorry, you told me what your company
You
was,
also
but
do
I didn't.
what? Yes.
Yeah, because I'm so invested in who are they as a human being and holistically. Oh, what's
Yeah.
their family? What are their animals? What are their hobbies? And then I'm like, wait, okay, now I know you. I like you. What's your business?
I totally agree. I mean, the person behind it is really what makes it, right? And I think that's too what people want, is they want to be seen, right? You want to be seen for who you are and what you bring to the table, not just in a business sense, but as a person, because that stuff all bleeds together. If you don't know who you are or what your core desires are, you can't really move forward. I'm actually reading another book I'll tell you about. Sorry.
We bonded over books. No, this is
We
great. Keep
bond over
going.
books, right? The Desire Map is a book I'm reading right now, and it basically I'm on chapter 1, so not getting ahead of myself. And it's a bit of a workbook, and I'm reading it with a few friends, and we're gonna do our work and then get together. But it's basically talking about, instead of setting goals for your life or your business or whatever, instead of setting the actual goal, first talk about how you want to feel. So how do you want to feel in 2025? Like, what are the core desires you
Mm,
have to feel like as a person? And then set your goals around that, because sometimes we set these arbitrary goals and they don't always align. Like, why am I not really wanting to do that? Or why does that not really feel
mm.
right? Because we didn't think about first how we wanted to feel. And it's funny because I set this past year in 2024 with my group that I do this with, I set for 2024, my word was centered, and my 3 feelings were inspired, valued, and playful. And it's funny because I
Ooh.
didn't even know about Zen Paddle yet. It wasn't in my brain. It didn't come into fruition until about March. But I thought, oh my gosh, looking at it now, it's like those words were so aligned with what I created. And I created Zen Paddle without even really thinking about those words. I have them on my computer and they're always there because I go back to them. And those are things, but I definitely felt inspired and I definitely felt playful, which is what I was trying to bring to everyone. And I definitely felt valued and certainly centered when I was out there. So I'm looking forward to next year. I'm working on my words right now,
I
but feeling how you want to feel before you move forward.
I love that. I come up with like a word or a short phrase every year, and it doesn't hit me until November, December when it's
Yeah.
about the new year.
Yep.
It's funny because you go back to it at the end of the year and you're like, yeah, no, that definitely was subconsciously driving the decisions.
Oh yeah. I just start thinking now, if I'm just ever going, oh, why'd that word pop in my head? I just write it down and I'm like, that could be it. Because I think it's like a little butterfly. I always say Zen Paddle was like a little butterfly that sat on my shoulder. And sometimes these little butterflies ideas come and they sit on your shoulder and you're like, not right now. And then sometimes they come and they're like, we're going to stick around for a minute until you, and that was when I went, okay. So it's just kind of being like open to the things that come into your life and open to your subconscious and actually sitting down and reflecting and trying to find quiet space so that those things can come in, because we're
Yeah.
so busy
Yeah. Yeah.
all the
Understatement.
time, right?
Well, this has been a delightful conversation. I have one final question
Hey,
for you.
uh-oh.
If you were talking to a new business owner today, what's the piece of advice you would give them before they took the leap to start their own business?
Oh, that's a tough one. There's so many things I wish I had told myself. I think the biggest one would be to just start little things. Don't think about how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? I think sometimes we have this huge end, what we want it to look like, and there's so many tiny things along the way that you need to do. So even finding a name.
Oh,
If
yeah.
I have this idea about being a business owner. Okay, find your name. And then what I started doing was saying that that's what I was before I really was it. So I'd be like, yeah, I'm a
Ooh,
designer and I work in home renovations.
that's
Or
good.
yeah, I'm a paddleboard guide before I even had my first guide, because I would tell myself that, yep, I'm a paddleboard guide, and had never taken a group out, because you have to start feeling it and then just do the little tiny things. It's finding the name of your company, or getting a business card made. That always feels really cool, or getting your logo made. Do the little things that kind of make you ramp up to the big picture. But I think if you overthink everything and try to think you have to do it at one, there has to be one big thing you're working on at all times, right? So if you say, I've got to do these 10 things before starting a business, figure out your one big thing right now. And that's something I learned when I was going through this entrepreneurial process with a group. We had a group, together. It was like, what's your one big thing? I need to get copy for my website. Okay, well, that's all I have to do. So I need to find the person that can write it. I need to figure out what I want the voice to sound like and all the things. So pick the one big thing and just attach to that, but just do it. Just go. Move in small or fast, just move forward.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. I think that's a great piece of advice. Thank you, Daphne.